Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, too tired. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have a full team in store with you today to make sure you get your HBCU sporting news before the weekend. And for many, this is a holiday weekend, and some will be traveling, others will be off. But for those that are not, we will get you your HBCU news for things get going. This is episode 797. So we want to say welcome to episode 797 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. So this covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. As I said, Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live. The KSUH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let's bring everybody on board. And as we're bringing everybody on board, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THD Agency, LLC. THD Agency is the company that provides sporting, educational, consulting, and data analytics. With that being said, Charles, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. As you mentioned, a little bit of an extended weekend here, so looking forward to getting into the weekend.
Good deal. Look for it as well. Should be some good baseball, but we will do our final basketball analysis and see what these three gentlemen think about the final major division polls for men's and women's as we get things going. But before we get really into some news of the day talk, Eddie Drew, how are you doing today?
Extended weekend for who, man? I got home baseball this weekend, man. My weekend, at least the first half of my weekend is shot, man, with baseball. Big series in the SIAC as we take on Albany State. And if anybody's been following the SIAC, we'll kind of get into a little bit later, but one weekend series can totally flip the conference standings. Last week, we went from 3 to 6 after being swept, and the week before that, we went from 7 to 3 after sweeping our opponent. So that just tells you how bunched up everybody is in the SIAC. But Doc, next week, this time, will be 800, man. Think about that. 800. Wow.
That's a big deal. I appreciate it. Appreciate the acknowledgement. You're right. It took a team of us to get there, but we're crushing it, getting to 800, and it is hard to imagine that is happening. As you talk about baseball that you have to do, I think Deuce and I will get to Prairie View to see FAMU and Prairie View play, and it just has ended as they turn a double play. FAMU gets it done, 17-14.
Oh, wow.
Put it in late in that game. That's was cool. A 14-13 game with Prairie View having runners on second and third, 2 outs. Couldn't get another run in to tie it. And then worse for the wear, FAMU was able to put up 3 runs in the top of the ninth. Prairie View fought back to maybe make it a little interesting, as it was a solo home run that took it 17-14. You get a runner on first, he gets picked off, and then you get a walk and another runner on, and you get a double play to end the game, 17-14. Give you some other indicators. You have Valley and Alcorn played 2 yesterday to get ahead of things, and Valley took both games. One was a 10-inning affair with Valley, the Delta Devils, getting it done against the Braves 6-5. And then the other game was Valley getting it done against the Braves 15-8. They are playing one today. It's in a delay, but Valley is up 12-6 in the 8th inning. You got a final out of Huntsville, Alabama, with Texas Southern defeating Alabama A&M 7-5. You do have a Jackson State Grambling game scheduled for tonight at 7. You have Alabama State tonight also on 7. And that Alabama State Pine Bluff game, just like this Prairie View FAMU game, will be on SWAC TV. Softball, you have Alabama A&M and FAMU on SWAC TV. You have softball Jackson State at Alabama State on SWAC TV, just to give you some of your things that you can consider and check out on SWAC TV this weekend. With that being said, without further ado, let's bring Wilton Jackson II on. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Doc. Glad to be back. I know I've been gone for a couple episodes, but just been out on the grind doing what I got to do.
Oh, we know you're a busy man. You got to tell us like that. We know you want it as well. I'm not gonna say who wants you, but we know you want it because I don't want you to get too excited and get you in trouble with some of the folks out there in terms of being one of the most wanted, as they say. I heard. But anyway, he said, I'm just telling you what the folks say, man.
This man's so crazy.
So I was told somebody send me a text. Can I get his number? I say I got to ask, man. Don't give out people a number like that.
It's the shimmy, man. It's the shimmy.
it's something. But no, I know you're doing your professional thing. Was on the road, covered some basketball. Good job getting it done. This thing's getting heated. But with that, let me go back to you, Charles. What's on your mind in terms of news of the day? What direction you want to go?
Yeah, let's start off with the SWAC Baseball Weekly Awards for April 1st as the Southwestern Athletic Conference tabbed Arkansas Pine Bluff's Blake Coleman and Zach Weeder, Florida A&M's Jay Campbell and Jesus Campa, along with Bethune-Cookman's Justin Morales for SWAC Baseball Weekly Awards. Let's take a look at the co-hitters of the weekend, the SWAC, as Blake Coleman had an impactful bat for Arkansas Pine Bluff in their 3-game sweep for Alcorn, going 6-for-11, batting .545 with a gaudy 10 RBIs, a home run, a triple, and 3 walks across the series. He reached base safely in 9 of his 14 plate appearances and drove in multiple runs in every game of that series. Florida A&M's Jay Campbell was impressive during the past week of competition as he served as a catalyst for FAMU's offense. He tallied 9 hits while driving in 7 runs to go along with a .529 batting average for the week. The pitcher of the week was Jesus Campa. He pitched 8 complete innings against Alabama State while picking up the win. He allowed only 3 hits while giving up no earned runs. And then the cold newcomers of the week was Zach Weeder. He was a force at the plate all week for Arkansas Pine Bluff as he batted .625, going 5 for 8 with 7 RBIs, 6 run scores, and 2 walks. And then Justin Morales from Bethune-Cookman, also a stellar week. He helped Bethune-Cookman in their 5-4 finale win over Jackson State. He earned the 2nd win of the season, going 3 2/3 of 1-hit ball in which he did not allow a run but struck out 4. So those are your players of the week in the SWAC.
Good stuff, good stuff. Let me go to you, Wilton. What's on your mind this week?
So I get into some of the MEAC softball honors. Howard Jr. Micaiah Taylor has been named the MEAC softball player of the week. Norfolk State Samantha Stevenson earned Rookie of the Week honors, while Morgan State's Millie Cousins was recognized as the Pitcher of the Week. Taylor hit a .444 in a series sweep over South Carolina State, driving in 8 RBIs with 2 home runs and 1 double and 4 runs scored. She posted a .122 slugging percentage and .176 OPS, while also recording 23 putouts behind the plate. Stevenson tossed a complete game shutout in a 2-0 victory over North Carolina Central, allowing just 6 hits across 7 innings. Cousins went 2-0 with a 1.29 ERA over 16.1 innings, throwing 2 complete games, recording 11 strikeouts, and allowing just 3 earned runs, helping the Bears go 3-1 on the week.
Good call. Shout out to MEAC softball. Shout out to SWAC baseball. Hey, Drew, what direction did you want to go? I know we get in here, we got into some media rights talk. I don't know if you want to do that now, if you want to get out some other news.
No, I'm gonna get in that but I do want to say I would like you to comment on the Kentucky State situation if you can before we get off. But the story I want to get into is the media rights deal for Southern with WBRZ, who also is the media rights partner with LSU. We know both of those are right there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The relationship now, this is the relationship that they have with the LSU. Includes weekly programs such as Inside LSU Sports, as well as regular coaches shows, post-game coverage. WRBZ also airs behind-the-scene content such as The Climb. The digital platform WRBZ Plus expands coverage even further with additional LSU-focused program. Now, Southern appears to be positioned for a similar ecosystem. While they have not announced the full details of this, they say the partnership goes beyond game day coverage. And here's something that I think is key in all of this. WRBZ confirmed it will invest directly in Southern's mass communications program, providing resources to improve student training, access to modern media tools, and professional development. I hope that professional development includes internships and externships, and ultimately job opportunities for some of those LSU mass communication students. So that's what I wanted to bring out with this deal, Dr. Cavil.
Yeah, I saw a little bit about that, and great job and excellent framing and notification and follow-up discussion for questions out there. One thing I think is important to look at this when you break it down, that in some ways this is separate than what you think about when we talk about television rights or intellectual property IP in terms of conference games or non-conference games where you're showing footages of games that will be played, which gets in what we talked about before with primary rights, secondary, tertiary, and exclusionary rights, which gives you some framework of who has the first rights to a game. When you think about that, primary rights means you essentially have the first right. And depending on the contract, it can be either saying that you will have the first rights to select games that you want, or it could just be saying that you have the ability to select 5 games over a season or 1 game a week. You know, it depends on the detail of contracts. And then secondary rights would mean that you're the second intellectual property organization. And then tertiary rights sounds just like it, your third rights. And exclusionary rights is the ability to exclude folks. Probably the easiest way for folks to think about that is when you have like campus pouring rights, your Coca-Cola campus, you have exclusionary rights and no one on campus can sell those products, or certainly when you're at events, cafeteria, or the other place you see it obviously is athletic events. But some organizations have events where they have movie theaters or theater arts where they have the ability to sell drinks, pour drinking rights, and it would cover that too for the most part. Again, you get into details of the contracts. But when you have competing organizations such as Coca-Cola or Pepsi, you're going to get a rights for one of those. So if you had ABC/ESPN or NBC, CBS, Fox Sports or whatever, those would be independent rights that each organization will sell. You do have some examples where you have like the Big Ten where they split those rights out, or like you would get Fox and ABC may partner with the Big 12. They find a way to split which games they're going to put up there. But in this particular game, it seems like they have packaged the rights for Southern to be able to do pre- and post-game events, coaches' shows, if you would. Think about it from that perspective. The run up to a game instead of just the rights to broadcast it. Now, you could put this in a contract where you would be like SEC TV and saying, all right, we want all these rights bundled up, and which should include the fact that we're going to do a pregame, postgame analysis. And we want the ability to have rights to do all that. And so that's what it looks like in this case. So that's interesting when you get into like SIC, frameworks of TVs, or SWAC TVs, MEAC. I'm hearing that they're going to come out with potentially a MEAC TV package. And so when we get in these primary, secondary rights, we need to be specific in terms of what does that look for the conference. At one time, there were exclusionary rights where ESPN just had their rights and they could block everybody else. Obviously, as people grew, started understanding that there was power to be able to separate your rights, so that thing started taking up. You see the value at HBCU Go. As you renegotiate contracts, you can update that. So you could have contracts for the SWAC, for example, where maybe ESPN gets a set number of games. And once they get those games, everything else goes to whoever else has it. Could be HBCU Go. Then you have kind of your next rights, which would essentially be SWAC TV. And some of those could be in such a way that the school could still have their personal rights. So you see with some of the schools still doing stuff on YouTube. The other thing is important, that's really important. When you think about HBCU Go, it's national, right? When you think about ESPN, it's national. NBC is national versus a local TV group, which is different in terms of how you handle those rights from a conference perspective. So those are some things that are important. SIC, I believe they're bringing up TV. And so you can think about it. SIC could get into a deal if they wanted to, where they actually partner with HBCU Go in some format, where they kind of negotiate how that looks, where HBCU Go has some rights, ESPN might have some rights, SIC has some rights, and then they could partner on whether it's ESPN or to create their own network, or with HBCU Go to create that network. So really got to get in the details of the package to really see what is written within the rights of the contract. But really good question when you start thinking about this intellectual property and what is governed by the conference and what are outside of that, and what are some exclusionary things that the conference or a member institution can hold for themselves. With that, we'll get into some other discussion with Kentucky State. I think that is something that we all need to certainly pay attention to. And you talk about what that really means. So we have some time before we end. We'll get into that. Let's take our first break. Look at the final top 5 poll rankings. As we like to do here for major division. We'll start with the women because Silver is not dead, but we'll be right back after this first break.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I saw this flashed up, but I guess I could have asked you to put it back up there. But Emmett Jones had a comment that says, I just hope if they don't broadcast their games on ESPN, that SWAC TV can broadcast their games, especially in football. I do want to make this clear. I did get this from Charles in terms of what the SWAC TV is owned by the conference. It's operated by the SWAC office. But the beauty of that SWAC TV is the fact that as long as they meet the specs that has been shared with all the conference members, the commissioner has opened it up that they can put, whatever they want from their institutions on SWAC TV. So he's opened it up where you could have coaches shows that are dedicated to Alabama A&M, for example, that has done similar type of work and kind of pushed the edge on this, that you can put it on that particular channel for Alabama A&M and have it on SWAC TV. And so as long as you meet those specs that they put out there, because they want to make sure there's good quality out there, you can do that. What has taken a while, that you got to remember, this is really new. It was launched at the SWAC football media day in terms of saying they move forward. You saw some of your first games that came on during the season. So everybody has not been able to get up to specs in terms of what they want to do for the cameras necessary, production capability of that. Now, what the conference office has done is they have made some availability of productions that they have selected to put games on SWAC TV, and they share it and make sure it goes around the conference. It's in partnership with the ADs in such a way that it covers that. And so that's important in terms of understand what they do with the SWAC TV. So we were able, Charles and I, Operator Award, we were able to put a game time sports show that came on every Saturday in partnership with the conference to do that. Obviously, you could do some stuff that is just programming that you're doing. Like we did a HBCU lecture series. We did it before SWAC TV, but that's something that if we worked out and the conference commissioner, ADs, presidents, they wanted that, they can put that on SWAC TV. You put it there. But so it's not whether you can put it there. It's one, are you prepared by the camera? And Charles has even talked about the fact that there's some, opportunity for if schools want to work with him to help them get whatever equipment's necessary. You can do that. And there's a way that they would partner in to get that done. So he's put a lot of opportunities out there to make sure that everybody's knowledgeable and prepared for that. In terms of ESPN and SWAC TV, ESPN has a number of games. I will put out there in terms of what those number of games are. Once they get their number of games, they're solvent, and you check that box off. You got to remember now they have some other independent stuff they put out there with the MEAC SWAC Challenge, which obviously is a contractual partnership, but they own that particular event. The Cricket Celebration Bowl as well. They do that. They own that event, and then they negotiate it with the conferences to make sure certain teams play at the end of the year. Top teams, obviously, at each conference meets up, and you do it that way, and then there's revenue associated with that. So that's important. But that's beyond what they do with the ESPN games they select. You also know that HBCU has a set amount of games that they put in there. They select those games, and that's in partnership, and then that's how you go with that. So I wanted to be clear when people started putting up in terms of, I hope if ESPN doesn't select SWAC TV, that opportunity is there. That's something that you have to work with your AD to make sure they're prepared They have the quality that's necessary if they want games that are not selected by SWAC to be put on SWAC TV in some type of way. So, hey, so everybody kind of has room to have their own choice. And there's also room to have partnership with them.
Can I throw one other thing out about that people need to understand, Dr. Cavil, before we move into these polls? Is that the games that ESPN, HBCU Go come in and buy are only conference games. So if you have a non-conference matchup, say Prairie View is taking on
Austin State.
Texas A&M Commerce. I'm just throw something out at Prairie View. Even though Prairie View owns the rights to those games, SWAC does not own the rights, and SWAC can't.
Well, that you got to be careful with that. That depends on the bylaws associated with the conference.
Right.
At one time, that was the case that it was only conference would own the conference games that were played between conferences. As conferences have evolved and the value of having more property, some of these conferences have updated their bylaws in such a way that any game that has a conference member is actually governed by the conference office if it's played at the home site of a conference.
So if it's a neutral
I've
site,
seen some cases where you have two conferences with member teams in it that are governed by the same contract, in this case ESPN, and it was a non-conference game, and ESPN still, based on how the contract was written, had the rights to that game. So I know those exist. So again, it is very important to look at, one, what is the actual wording of the contract? Two, what are the actual framing of the bylaws that are specific to who owns those rights? And those things can change. At one time it may one way. These people get together in terms of the presidents, chancellors, and they amend, they update the bylaws, and they go, and as long as they voted through a process, those that are part of Greek letter organizations or other organizations, you even see this with corporations when you have parliamentary procedures and things of that nature. And you have bylaws that govern it. You know that you can update and change bylaws. It doesn't often happen. But as long as it goes through whatever the governing process to do that, it's ratified, that becomes the new process. So you're right, Drew. In some conferences, the home institution will control those games. In other conferences, the conference still governs those games. So I'm glad you brought that up.
All right.
So let's get into our poll rankings. Since we had that conversation, let's take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side and give the full due for the women's poll rankings and get into that as we get back. This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into the women's basketball poll ranking as we got into a little bit of a lecture there, Charles.
Yeah.
And Wilton. I know AD has taught some classes as well. Having a little bit of class there. I know some of y'all getting ready to give out some midterm grades. Y'all be nice, man. Y'all be nice.
As nice as we can be.
Right.
hey, the kiddies on spring break, Dr. Cavil. So. College and had theirs. Now it's time for the kiddies.
Yeah.
I feel you. You're right. So no team dropped out of this week, and you won't see a lot of changes here. So we'll be able to run through this, but we'll make it official. As most of the major division teams kind of moved through the week without games, as they had did their opening first 4 round games and opening tournament play, and there was no BCIC at the major division level, although we're working through that process. So receiving votes, Alcorn State Braves 17-14, 14-4. Again, talking about the WNIT, they had a chance to host the game. So they worked with the conference and put the game on SWAC TV, saw that game. Exciting to have of that. And kudos for the AD and the presidents in terms of getting that facility ready to be able to host that game. That's a statement in itself. Alabama State Hornets sit at 17-15 as they got done with their season, 12-6 conference, 32 points. UAPB Golden Lions 15-16, 10-8. Jackson State Tigers 12-19, 10-8, and Grambling State Tigers 13-19 and 10-8 as they close out things with 14 points. Let's get in the top 5. We had changes a couple of weeks ago, but they all stayed the same here. Maryland East Shore closes out the 2025-2026 season at number 5, getting up to 20 wins as they got that done in postseason. Credit to them in terms of what they were able to do. 20-15 overall, 11-3 what they did in the MEAC. Tremendous season as the Maryland Eastern Shore decided to get into the basketball business. Bringing us to number 4, Norfolk State Spartans. They have been in the basketball business for a while. They switched over in terms of who was leading in the captain chair, but they certainly pushed things in the right direction in terms of maintaining a lot of their history at 18-15, 11-3, 50 points, just over Maryland Eastern Shore. That split during the season, but they hold on to that 4th spot. Bringing us to number 3, the Southern Jaguars, 20-14, 12-6, another banner year, at least in postseason, as they get the tournament championship. So that's back-to-back tournament championships. They end up going to the NCAA tournament after winning, obviously, conference play, and they play for the second year in the first 4. And for the second year, they get a win. Credit to what they're doing over there in Jaguar land. 12-6, 62 points, with Funches really getting it done as he is making his statement in terms of the legends in SWAC history. At number 2, Alabama A&M Bulldogs sit at 22-11, 17-1, 2 first-place votes, 74 points. They remain in the 2 spots. I know some people had some concerns on this. Calculation-wise and when it came out, they did, at least officially, will land in 2 spots. We'll see if you all still have some concerns with that. But the Bulldogs did win the regular season, did get postseason play. They lost a tough one on the road. But I don't think there's any questions with the number 1, Howard Bison, 26-8, 13-1, 6 first-place votes, 78 points as they remain number 1 and close out 2025-2026 as the major division champions in terms of what they did from a record spot. I'm going to start with you, Wilton. What do you have to say with the final poll rankings? How close was I off to what you did in your rankings? Did you do a final one?
I didn't do a final one, but this is well, I get into it in a second, but I didn't do a final one.
No problem. Now you get to voice
Don't tip your
your
hand now.
opinion on what a final poll from Wilton would look like, but this will be the final one. If you didn't do one, I get double credit now.
You do. You get double. You get overtime. So looking at these top 5 teams now, follow the rules as AD would say, start from the bottom. You and me, Maryland Eastern Shore at number 5. I'm okay with that. I like the season that they had. I know we was throughout the season kind of trying to figure out like where they would be at the end of the season. I know at one point in time, that we saw what they were doing during the season. We didn't necessarily know that they would actually be where they were, and especially right now, back during the months of like late January, early February. Norfolk State struggled a little bit, as we know, and really, got into gear in the latter part of February, and we saw them, get into gear. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a person that if you won the SWAC tournament, if you won your conference tournament, I think that weighs a little bit more than just a regular season championship. Just saying, and that's no discredit.
I like that. And Emmett said that too. I think Charles is going to chime in there, but I want to get this out there as y'all going through this. Why do you have more value in the tournament than the regular season?
Because
I'm not saying it's incorrect. Yeah. I just want people to understand why you particularly have more value in one than the other.
I mean, because here's the thing. The ultimate goal of why we play sports is to win championships, right? Now, granted, it's a regular season championship, but anytime you play, you want to play for the big championship. That's like saying if we were in the NFL and we made it to the AFC or NFC championship game, and that's great, but you didn't get a chance to play for the Super Bowl. You want to play for the Super Bowl, right? You want to play, or better yet, let's bring it back to HBCUs. I won a SWAC SWAC championship, or I won a MEAC championship, right? But I didn't win the Celebration Bowl, or ultimately you were one step away from, like, I guess maybe winning the MEAC or the SWAC, but you didn't get to the Celebration Bowl. In my mind, I'm thinking like the ultimate goals when you're competing in these sports are to win the big bag. In college football, we say the granddaddy of them all. So in this particular case, I definitely think I would bump Southern above Alabama A&M, although we know Alabama A&M had a historical season. Historical. We don't even know we'll see it again. Not saying that we won't.
I think you make a very valid argument. If you were in my sports law class, I would give you an A because I think you laid out your rationale.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to support that rationale. I'm gonna put my end point at the end because I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder. Just to tie in the reason why you all probably think this way.
Absolutely. And I'm about to say, yeah, I'm gonna leave some meat on the bone for Charles.
Thank you. No problem. Good job.
I mean, I'm going in the same direction. I mean, I have Southern sitting at 2 with Alabama A&M 3, but it's the totality of winning the SWAC championship as well as getting that postseason win, the first 4 win. Yep. So the totality of both of those, when all the chips are on the table, is sort of that determinant for me in terms of moving Southern in front of Alabama A&M. I don't think it diminishes anything from the regular season championship. 17-1 is nothing to sneeze at, but I'm going to come back to your analogy, Wilton. I almost liken it to winning the AFC East or the NFC East, and, you got to the championship game and, you got the regular season accolades, but you did not get that prize at the end. So that's where my weight sort of hangs with Southern on that. And even though Alabama A&M, they did knock off Southern twice, if I'm not mistaken, during the course of the season, when all the chips were on the table, that's where I have my weight going with the Jaguars on that.
Good comments. And again, I think you make extremely valid points. And so along with Wilton, I'm going to be one of those professors I told y'all to do well today with your grading. I'm going to do that. Charles, you get an A as well. 80, Drew. Notice I didn't say A plus yet.
You did.
Right 5, wrong order. And to use an analogy that all of our bands play. Y'all talk it out the side of your neck, and you're talking out both sides of your neck. So, and I'm gonna tell you why. If you're gonna use that analogy, especially with the win in the postseason in the first four for Southern, that means you have to swap Maryland Eastern Shore and Norfolk because Norfolk picked up a win in a secondary tournament. Norfolk and Maryland Eastern Shore were both in a secondary tournament. Only one of those teams won. And in a week-to-week poll, Maryland Eastern Shore had the last win of the two teams in consideration for the 4 and 5 slot. Same thing with Southern. Southern had the latest win. Southern picked up a win. Alabama A&M lost their last two games. So I'm going to reward their regular season by putting them at 3. I'm going to reward Maryland Eastern Shore's postseason and put them at 4.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they agree with you. Great job, AD, and making it consistent. So I will give you also an A. I will say this, though. You all are prisoners of the capitalistic enterprise in this country, better known as marketing. Do you know historically that there wasn't a such thing as a postseason or a tournament, right? Charles knows this. We talked this in class, and he had that same look when I told him in. He agreed. But the reason why there is even a thing such as a tournament is the fact that they wanted to sell individuals like yourselves. You do a good job because y'all media folks as well. To sell other individuals of the importance of this postseason game, even though it's just made up. Such a reason I could charge you higher prices to reset things because I wanted to make more money. So it wasn't like all of a sudden, historically, people was like, you know what? We're going to create postseason because it's more important. They were like, hey, we made a lot of money during the regular season. It sure would be nice to keep some of that money train going. So they came up and they were like, hey, let's have postseason and tell everybody that it's more important. And we can charge higher prices and they'll pay for it. So you all are gluttons to sports marketing, sports journalism, as you all do really well, because I've seen you all seriously the work you've done, particularly with your students. But I just want to know that you all fell for it. You all fell for it. You all fell hard over heels to say that, hey, this is a tournament, which is a good thing. So BCIC, if they just continue to do what they do, market it a little harder, increase the revenue associated with it, at one point, maybe 10, 20 years, and we can get it to last that long, you all will say they won a BCIC championship.
Yep.
And so that is extremely important. So I'm going to give them additional kudos in terms of the mid-major programs that y'all kind of wavered. Charles was consistent. I will say that. He said, I gave him a little buck for this win. AD, he wasn't ready for it yet. You got to do some more marketing for the BCIC to drag AD along. He didn't say anything bad about it. But I just want you all to know. Edwin, guilty as charged. I get it. As long as you all know what they have set you up. I won't even say the man because it's just sports marketing. It is what it is.
Doc, excuse me for reading the syllabus and it said this is a week-to-week poll, and I took that to heart. And the team that won the last game of the week-to-week poll
like that,
are the teams.
But I want to make it clear. You all did not use that today.
I did. I said that. That was part of my argument.
So basically, we got, instead of us getting A pluses, we just got A's.
You
just got A's.
Legitimate arguments.
It's still on the A plus on the GPA, so I don't care if it's a 90. I don't care if it's a 90 or a 99. It's still 4 points.
Man, let's take this next break.
Exactly. I'm going.
Let's take this next break and get on the other side and talk about the major division for the men. I won't chastise you on the next one, so you're fair. Whatever you say there, I'll break it down because we've already did the exercise on this one. And for the lab listeners that were up front and saying that they were guilty as charged. I appreciate y'all. At least y'all are honest out there in the lab, listening loud. That's why we love doing this and entertaining y'all with not just information, but also facts, sports business, and a little bit of history to tell you where all this comes from. We'll be right back on the other side.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
And we have to fund our kids in these colleges, and we have to make sure our kids have seats in these colleges.
Now, what about HBCUs? You mentioned.
Absolutely. You got to fund them all, and you've got to make sure they're properly funded. You know, the real reason why I went after Comcast and Charter, it didn't have anything to do with my cable networks. It didn't. What happened was a gentleman wanted to do the Black College Sports Network in partnership with the HBCUs. And Comcast did not accept it. And that would have made a lot of money for these black colleges.
Absolutely.
And it would have educated the Black College Sports Network. This is what he wanted to do. That would have educated a lot of black kids. And when they didn't do that, that's when I came off the bench and said, okay, I'm going to light you up like a Christmas tree. Okay. That was the real reason why I got into it, was when I saw what happened with the Black College Sports Network, which I don't own. I just knew.
Why didn't you buy it?
I just knew. I just knew that these black.
I like that talk.
All right. I knew that these black colleges were going to benefit, and these black kids were going to get the education that they deserved and not have to pay.
There's a shot. It might be. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Movement.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a loss, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and Adrian and EA talking about Zach hating on Southern. I thought he just gave his opinion. That y'all asked him what he ranked the team. Y'all gonna be mad because he ranked them based on the data that he put in this. Because my boy wasn't ready for him to get an answer he gave. That's not on Zach. That's not a Zach problem. That's not a Zach problem. With that being said, let's get back in these poll rankings. Put them in. Dropping out this week is none. No team did that week. Again, this will be a poll that was really what we released last week because we didn't have any additional games being played that could interfere with the data. But receiving votes, FAMU, Rattlers, 15-16, 11-7. Remember, they finished tied for second. Heck of a season, first-year coach. Getting it done over there to be interesting to see what that looks like next year. Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 18-15, 10-8. Extremely solid season. Texas Southern Tigers, 12-18, 10-8. In terms of tied for essentially it was the 4th and 5 slot, but that slot there. Morgan State Bears, 14-16, a breakout season to some degree. 10-4, 29 points. And UAPB Golden Lions, what a major statement, 13-19, 10-8. Essentially finishing top 10 in terms of 2025, 2026. Heck of a season as they finished tied in that slot at 10-8. With that being said, let's get in the top 5 and see what it looked like here. Southern Jaguars, 17-17, 11-7. Third slot, if you would, there, 51 points, and then remain in that 5th spot in this final poll rankings. Bringing us to number 4, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, regular season champion, 17-15, 14-4. Major upset for them. Took them out in the quarterfinals with Prairie View that ultimately went on and won the tournament. Was their downfall in terms of the special season they had and the special season they wanted to have. But 76 points, they in the 4th spot. And number 3, we have Prairie View and Panthers, 19-8, 9-9, 77 points. Not only did they have the magical run in the SWAC tournament, they were able to put a really fine point on it, get to 19 wins on the season with the first 4 win in the tournament, 77 points. Bringing us to number 2, Tennessee State Tigers, solid season, 23-10, 15-5. 4 first place votes, 100 points. And if it wasn't for the number 1 team, they probably would be crowned a major division champion. In fact, they had the number 1 spot until you got Howard that finished with the Fury. They had the regular season champion, which same with Tennessee State. They had the tournament championship, same as Tennessee State. Because of the ranking and where they were seated, they played in the first 4, and they got that victory, which is probably the difference that gave them a little bump. Last one to be seen, the full night where they got everything watching them, and the way they handled preseason and postseason, telling their story probably helped when we talk about sports marketing and branding to the last segment. Those things can go far when you got the human element of people voting as well as the data points that exist in a week-to-week poll that looks at various components in terms of what you did in postseason, according to these gentlemen. So, with that being said, I'm going to start with AD. Where are you in terms of the men's side of things? The final poll, Howard, at least according to what we presented here, it's the double-double in terms of should help at the end of the year for the AD rankings in a lot of ways as they get a men's and women's championship regular season tournament. And for the men, they get a first 4 win, which certainly the conferences have because they get an extra unit, which means more money, more money, more money. Go ahead, Drew.
I'm going to stay consistent. Same argument I used on the women's side. I'm going to use
like
on the men's side as far as last impressions, wins in a week-to-week poll. So I'm good with the first 3. Some may question, does Prairie View really deserve to be above Bethune, considering how great of a regular season Bethune had in SWAC? But I'm going to give you a metric to look at. I'm going to pull out my inner Mike Washington. I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds with this, but if you think about it, Prairie View won how many games in the tournament? 3 games in the tournament? 4 games in the tournament. Plus they won an extra game. Yep. Plus they won a first 4 game. So Prairie View right now has 10. They had 10 games not counting on their conference schedule. That means they won 5 games during the regular season non-conference. If you look at Bethune's record, they only won 2 games, 3 games non-conference.
Good point.
5 is greater than 3. Another reason to put Prairie View above Bethune-Cookman without even looking at the quality of the opponent's strength of schedule and everything else. But when you look at that, it's just something else to take into consideration as a metric on why Prairie View deserves to be in that 3 slot. You could argue swapping Southern and Bethune because Southern knocked Bethune out. I'm going to let one of y'all 2 make that argument, though, before I go into it. I'll just throw it out there. You could argue it. I'll let y'all make that argument if y'all want to. Who's up?
Good stuff. Great comments, great arguments, great debates. Sticking with that A, man. You acing this out. You're not gonna have to take the final exam.
That's what it's all about. Test out the final.
That's right. Wilton, go ahead. Your thoughts.
I agree with Howard being number one, mainly due to the fact that obviously getting the championship, the MEAC championship, but then also that first 4 win helps out tremendously. I think they deserve to be number one. Tennessee State at number 2. I'm good with that as well. Phenomenal season. Coach Nolan Smith, what he was able to do in his first year, I don't think any of us, well, I won't necessarily say we didn't think he would do well, but I didn't know he was going to do this well in his first season. So I was very pleased for what he was able to put on the floor and what Tennessee State was able to do as a program. Now, 3, I'm good for Prairie View at 3. I'm glad nobody so far has said like Prairie View should have been lower. At least I think they fit here. I will make an argument that Southern could be above Bethune-Cookman because I think we all know, or I'm just maybe speaking for all of us, that Bethune-Cookman was not the same team without. Yeah, they were not the same team. And so I think that them getting put out in the SWAC tournament early, Southern being the team that beat them, Southern being the team that essentially, almost won a SWAC championship in this particular case amongst the teams that's still in this top 5, I would put Southern above Bethune-Cookman.
Yes, that was actually Prairie View that put out Bethune.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But you're right. Southern went to the championship game.
You're right.
And put out some other good teams. Charles.
So let me ask a question. Let me play devil's advocate on this. Why did we penalize Tennessee State for being the 15 seed and getting fed to the Lions early?
I don't know. It's my fault. I didn't tell you.
Alex, I'll take that one for 300.
Okay.
Go ahead, AD. I'll let you.
Although, and you're right, Charles, Tennessee State should not be penalized for taking for being the 15 seed. But when you look at it, when in the big dance, a 16 seed Howard performed better against a number 1 seed at Michigan than Tennessee State did as a coming into a little bit more respect as a 15 seed. And who whooped Tennessee State's tail? I can't remember right now.
Iowa State.
Yeah. Howard looked better against Michigan than Tennessee State did against Iowa State. That's the defining factor. Even if you throw that first 4 game out, my last impression was better of Howard in the loss than it was in Tennessee getting blown out by 45.
I was going to say the same thing, so I won't repeat it. Just to remind people that was a 4-6 point game at half. Even in the second half, Tennessee State, that game after the first 2 minutes, similar to
it was over.
Prairie View, Florida. It was over. And you have Michigan to let you know the quality of the team. They're at the Final Four, not so much for Iowa State. So they lived up to the ranking. It just showed that Howard really played well. So to me, when you put all in the mix, gives you a little bit. And I still think you got to remember, as while Tennessee State played really well and got everything done, they still had that loss on the road to Alabama A&M.
Yeah.
And everybody, I kept reminding everybody to do that. And it's not to discredit them, but it tells you the difference when you had a Howard team that really played well in non-conference, including winning all their HBCU games in terms of the SWAC opponents they played. Also, those teams out of the CAA non-conference game, including HBCUs. So if you really look at the season for Howard, and you don't fall in love with Tennessee being the darling because they hadn't did it in a while, which I think is still credit. When you really look at what Howard did this entire season, it was really special.
And I'm gonna say something else that I think bolsters Prairie View finishing at number 3. We're going by that last impression. Prairie View prior to the tournament, they were hot going into the tournament. Wins against Jackson State, Alcorn, and at Texas Southern, and then you get the 4 games in the tournament that where they stayed hot. So kudos to Prairie View for that final kick there. So
yeah, and then when you're looking at that whole ball, you're also thinking the fact that while they started out not as well in terms of conference play, and they probably would have been a higher seed if they didn't have the injuries in terms of the middle season in regards to the talent over all they had with two first teamers. But great comments, and I think we broke that down to give people different ways to look at it and why it worked out. But I think ultimately all of y'all get A's again. We're on the same page with how you broke it down. And y'all didn't fall that much in love with sports marketing after I gave you an update. So I appreciate that. Let's take our last break. We'll come back, a quick segment to kind of give you some baseball updates, final thoughts. And again, we'll look at Kentucky State's, and I'll give a final thought on that. We'll be right back after this last break.
At Automasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a state, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image. A Kenny T's company.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. It'll be fascinating as we get a little bit into this baseball talk, your final thoughts on some key matchups to keep your eyes on. And I know we kind of teased those out last week, so we don't have to redo that. But what are your thoughts in terms of Valley getting off the mat in terms of playing some pretty good ball against a rival? They took two today, leading in the third one with a pretty comfortable lead. With only an inning and a half left in that matchup, if you would.
Yeah.
So it looks like they quite possibly get the sweep. Obviously, FAMU started out. Texas Southern continues to be on the terror, even on the road. So fascinating. Charles, what are your kind of thoughts so far, what you saw with this early weekend round of games?
When I got an opportunity to see Valley up close, I was kind of impressed by them. Obviously, the pitching, they just probably still need some arms there, but they hit the baseball. They hit the baseball really well, and you saw that against Alcorn. So I got to give kudos to Valley. I mean, in terms of their baseball program is looking a lot better than it once did.
Good stuff. Wilton, any thoughts in terms of the SWAC baseball season for you thus far? Getting into that fourth week. So AD Drew kind of alluded to that we're close to getting to halfway mark, at least a third of the way there. So we're getting some indication. Some things are probably unique with a couple of teams just playing home games. Obviously, that's advantageous, with meaning others just played road games. But still, you get an idea of the quality of the teams and who is out front. What are your thoughts thus far on this season, early part of the season?
I think just kind of going off what Charles said about Mississippi Valley, it's definitely good to see them kind of come along. And again, like you anytime you see a lot of these teams that don't necessarily always have the success that, you know, some of the other teams have, it's always good to see. But I think for me, when it comes to baseball, the two teams that still come to my mind, and I'm sure it goes for a lot of us, is Bethune-Cookman and FAMU. And I think for me, it's just like, until as we get more into the season, these are still going to be my two teams to beat. Right, like these are probably the two teams I will pay attention the most to, and of course, being in Jackson, I'll pay attention to Jackson State and what they're able to do as well. But like Bethune-Cookman, FAMU, these are the matchups that like that's the matchup. Texas Southern, like these are the matchups that I want to see.
You know, I got an opportunity to talk to Coach Hernandez today from Bethune-Cookman, and he just loves this baseball team. You know, they're 8-1. in conference, but he talked about just their body of work, the way they attack each day. Very serious-minded ball club, but they really come to the park ready to play baseball every day. And you really love that about looking at a baseball team, that they have come to the ballpark with a sense of purpose day in, day out.
Yep.
Good stuff. AD Drew, any final thoughts you want to kind of talk about baseball? And you can go a little further in that in terms of baseball in general. In terms of what you're seeing, SWAC, SIAC, how happy are you with the baseball being played at HBCUs right now?
I don't want y'all to let this Valley record fool y'all. Against teams above them in the standings currently, Valley is 6-6. Against teams who are currently above them in the record, they are 0-6. Against teams who are currently below them in the standings, they are 6-0. They are doing exactly what a mediocre team should do. You beat the teams below you, and you lose to the teams above you. Now, we want to have a conversation about Valley. The next 2 weekend series, Valley has the 2 Florida teams. Win one or both of those series, then come back to me having a conversation with me about Valley.
But see, my expectations are not for them to win anything within those series. But if they play competitive, that's kind of turning the corner for me as far as their baseball program.
Okay, if they don't get run rule, Charles, is that competitive?
Partially. I don't expect them to get run rule.
I think your point is if they get a victory out of those 6 games, they get a victory or 2, particularly if they get one in each series, I think that's significant. But I also look at the score. Was it a 7-5 contest?
Yeah.
7-1.
Yes. Or was it 8-3? Those are some different indicators to your point, Aju. How well did they play? And hopefully they're on SWAC TV. You can actually see those games, and you can also get an indication. Did the game get away from them late? Were they competitive for 6-7 innings?
Yeah.
Tells me something different, particularly where Valley was in their expectation. We're all talking about Valley, so there's some of that. One thing I wanted to point out, getting back to Texas Southern, top 3 batting averages in the conference right now are led by Texas Southern. And those guys, all 3 of the guys are batting 400 or above. 5 slot, you get KJ White, 376, Miguel or Posey at 380. But then you get into Jonathan Trejo at 400, Byron Robinson at 407, and Miguel Morales at 439. Byron Robinson is also leading in home runs with 8, and we saw him do some damage this past weekend. Mm-hmm. He's ripping the cover off the ball. Jacob Radcliffe leading it with stolen bases along with KJ White Jr. So if you let Southern on the base pass, they're going to swipe 1 or 2 from you. So I love that. Bethune-Cookman, they can bat, but they also do it with the arms. Yep. Edwin Sanchez has 5 wins. Caleb Granger with 4. But then Texas Southern is in the mix. It seems like, as you said, the pitching is getting going. You got Joshua Pinion with 3, Justin Mays with 3 as well. ERA, Tanner Walker, you don't want to run in him if you're a batter. He's at 198, the only guy under 2 runs. ERA, strikeouts is led by Bobby Spencer. He'll make you look silly because you're swinging and you won't catch up with it with 44 strikeouts. Giving a little love to Jackson State with Derek Arocha at 42. Edwin Sanchez with 41. Caleb Granger at 41, as they do it both in terms of wins as well as strikeouts in terms of what they do well. Justin Mays with 39 strikeouts. So
Justin Mays got swing and miss stuff. He has stuff. Yeah.
You're not careful, he'll make you look bad. And as if
he do the Bugs Bunny to you.
Yeah, he got that stuff.
Exactly there. So that's big time when you talk about that. I did, as I promised, wanted to get in here and talk a little bit about Kentucky State. Really devastating news to talk about it. We've seen different actions by states in different ways that push on our public institutions. And we see a lot of that. But now you see the report in terms of them really changing the dynamics of how Kentucky State can operate. In terms of looking at making them almost, in a lot of ways, it seems as a technical college, community college. Polytech is the term they're using, capping them at the number of students, which is amazing to me in regards to not allowing students that, even if that's the case, have their interest. So you're capping off that well. I think the least of the worries are what does that mean in terms of athletics, important there. No word really what that means, but it's going to be hard to see how that will move forward. Time will tell. And then as we talk about the HBCU culture, we saw the designation in terms of what are they doing with the Greek letter organizations, which to me is devastating because you talk about a history component and what does that mean in terms of the culture of the institution. So you start pulling that way, you start pulling out that fabric. But we have to do what we need to do in terms of voice our concerns as many and in much as way as possible. Support those that are out front. It was good to see the students stood up and at least a voice in their concern. But we're in a time and space now. If this doesn't give you any indication, when people talked about African Americans and blacks in terms of what this current iteration of the United States is in, it's extremely important for us to stay vigilant and go beyond the fact that we may be doing all right and it doesn't seem like it's impacting you. We have to get beyond that and find ways within whatever your best practices is to make sure that you are finding a way to push back in terms of your values, particularly if it is your values, and supporting your HBCU, supporting your community, supporting your people. So find a way to do that. Continue to stay educated, which means you need to make sure you are trusting valuable sources that will provide you information, because you do have a lot of disinformation going on too. So be very careful about what you're reading, how you're reading, and what you're consuming in terms of keeping yourself vigilant and educated about how you tactfully work with folks that are in a position to make a difference in supporting yourself, your family, your community, your people, your institutions as we move forward. So I'll leave it right there. And thankfully for all those that support us, and more importantly, to support the institution, because you know the value what they bring to the world. With that, I want to say thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share your podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, I want to thank you for listening to Dr. Mills Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, Sunday at 9. Shout out to Sneaker Shop Talk. While he was not happy with his Tennessee State Tigers not holding on the number one spot, he was very fair, and he did drop that it was 34 points, and he admitted that they got beat up when they went to Huntsville about Alabama A&M. So he's fair. I appreciate that. Let me get a shout out to Wilton Jackson II, as he's a young steward out here getting it done. So I want to make sure we elevate him in terms of what he brings to the table and how he finds a way to push forward and give back. And it means a lot that he's decided to join and mix it up when he has the time to do that with us that may be a little bit ahead of his time, but he sees the value, and he's all over the place, and he's finding a way to make a difference. That's huge. We got A.D. Drew out there, man of many talents, and he's holding it up. So I want to make sure we acknowledge the work that he puts in there, which is second to none. And then obviously the old traveling partner, Charles Bishop, got him putting a lot of work. I'm putting a lot of stress on him. Hopefully it's in a good way. But he's navigating the space and getting a lot of things done. So without you all, that 800 that you were talking about that we're on the precipice of getting next week would not be out possible. Obviously, I have to shout out Mike Washington in terms of what he brings to the table and always hold it down. We know that he can't always be here, but his heart is here. So I want to acknowledge that. And the folks in the background, with Raymond Holly, Sticely, Parson, and folks like that have did things over the years. Sneaker Shop in terms of his write-up and skills that he does for us. Raymond Holly, who's always been a trooper And then obviously Roy, Evans, Brian in terms of what he does when he has opportunity. Want to salute all of you all in terms of making it easy for me to keep pushing forward and seeing to get that 800, maybe even look at 900 or 1,000. Who knows? We'll see what that means as we continue, hopefully, to wake up each day and do greater good than we do bad. With that, we're out. In terms of our final thought, let me get this here. As I was moving forward, my cheat code in terms of my tablet has run out of its battery space, but I have it for you all right here because we are going to have to go out the right way. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyatta Cavil. That's Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Force.
AD.
Lecture.
Wilton. Take us home.
Dismissed.
Y'all remember when he couldn't get that right?
I was just thinking about that. Oh my God. I was just thinking about that.